Grandmaster Nodirbek Abdusattorov is playing with the white pieces against Salem Saleh, and look at the warmth in his handshake. That's Salem Saleh for you. He is someone who everyone adores. He's the number one player from UAE, and he's taking on Nodirbek in the penultimate round of Sharjah Masters. A very important game for both the players. Nodirbek currently on 5 out of 7, and Salem Saleh also on the same score. They are trailing the leader by half a point right now. So the one who wins this game will most likely also join the leader perhaps. Now Nodirbek, what is his first move going to be? He opens the game with 1d4. Salem adjusts his pieces. He's one of the most aggressive players in the world of chess. Very imaginative, loves to attack, and his games are always very exciting. Knight comes out to f6 here, and Nodirbek plays knight to c3. This is known as the Veresov after d5, and earlier people used to put their bishop on g5, but now it's clear thanks to Bahadur Jobawa that the bishop actually belongs on f4. Is the Jobawa London, they call it, e6 played here, opening up the bishop, and generally this is a very strong idea that black has. So knight b5 makes a lot of sense. Attacking this pawn, of course it is defended by knight to a6, but on the other end now the c pawn is more free, and pawn to e3 is played. Bishop comes out to e7. Black wants to castle here, and Nodirbek pushes his pawn to h3. He makes a loft for the bishop on h2. I guess Salem is going to castle here. It's very straightforward and simple play by black. Has got the knight out, bishop out, has castled. Meanwhile, Nodirbek is banking on the fact that the bishop on c8 is slightly passive. Pawn to c6 played, and now just come back, knight to c3. He comes back with his knight to c3. And the queen comes to b6, putting pressure on the b2 point. And Nodirbek plays his queen to c1. It's also possible to play rook b1 here, but queen c1 played. Bishop comes to d7, and now just bishop e2 and short castle is on the agenda. Yes, he plays his bishop to e2, presses the clock, and Salem pushes his pawn to c5. Pawn comes up far ahead. Pawn to a4 played here by white, and now rook to c8. You can see how very beautifully all black pieces are placed here, and white has to be careful. Knight goes back to b1. Wow, is this some sort of preparation here? Crazy prep. Bishop comes to d6 for Salem, and now pawn to a5 by Nodirbek. He can go back to c7 now, but instead he goes queen b4 check. And isn't c3 possible now, and then the bishop is hanging? Well, he plays it. The point here is that he's going to play pawn takes pawn, a very important move here, because now if you take the queen, your own queen is hanging here on c1. So he takes on d6. Queen takes back on d6, and pawn takes d4. And white would like to simply castle next. He goes knight to c7. Here Salem's idea is to trade off the bishops with bishop b5, short castle, and now bishop b5 is surely possible to trade the bishops. He plays his bishop to b5. Queen comes to e3. Takes on e2, queen takes on e2, and queen a6. He's trading the queens as well. He'll take here. So Nodirbek takes on a6. Salem comes back. Takes with the knight. And now finishes his development with knight d2. Now, in such positions, I would surely say that it's a very even position, and I wouldn't be surprised if the game ends in a very quick draw here. He goes knight e8, and I like this move because he's rerouting his knight to the d6 square, from where it can control not just e4 but also c4. Knight jumps to e5. One of the things that black generally wants to do here is play b5, b4. It's like the minority attack. But because the pawn is here on a5, it's slightly difficult. So rook f e1 played. Getting the rook activated on the semi-open file. And now rook c7 with the idea of rook c8. And now maybe white wants to play kingside space grab with g4. So slowly and steadily you can see that white is the one calling more shots than black. And such positions are generally a bit uncomfortable for someone like Salem, who is quite used to active play. He goes back with his knight. His idea could be to just trade the knight on e5. Nodirbek brings his knight back to d3. And now the knight comes to d7. Maybe you can bring your knight from f3 to e5, knight b3 to c5. But first, king comes up, king to g2. And Salem, now who has 40 minutes on the clock, plays g6. In a way, this could help white potentially with the moves h4, h5. Yes, he pushes his pawn to h4. King comes up to g7. And he goes rook to h1. Black plays h6. And the idea is, if you go g5, he might close it down with h5. If h5, then g5. h5 played by Nodirbek. And now I guess Salem will go g5 here. That does seem like the most natural way to continue. He pushes his pawn to g5. And now rook h to e1. Black would have at some point maybe hoped to go f5 here in such positions to gain some activity, but his e6 pawn would get weakened. So maybe he's looking for b6. or just b5, b4 ideas. Nodirbek now pushes his pawn to f3. He has this ability to grind, and in fact this is one of his big skills. He pushes his pawn to f3. King comes back to g8. I'm not so sure what that move was all about, but you can feel it that Salem is not very comfortable here. King g3, slowly moving forward. Maybe f4 is on the cards. Goes king h7. I think black is just waiting for the time being right now. And now knight to f1. I'm not so sure where this knight is heading, but maybe it's going from e3 to g2 to play f4, or maybe knight e3 to c2 to go to b4, king g7. Aha, Salem's strategy becomes clear, that he's just waiting with his king. The knight comes up to e3. Such positions are very difficult for a normal chess player to understand and even replicate. But the way in which Nodirbek is playing here is definitely worthy of deep study and investigation. The knight comes to c2. One thing that you have to notice is that even if black's knight comes to c4, the b2 pawn is defended by the white knight. And you can see Salem waiting. Salem is like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to sit here and wait to see what Nodirbek does. And the way in which Nodirbek is making his moves is more like, hey, I have a clear-cut plan. It's just that you can't see it. King g7. And now rook e2. Again, a beautiful move to just keep this rook active on the e file, and the other rook will move to f1 with the idea of f4. So king h7. And yes, rook to f1 with the idea of f4 in the position. Rook g8 played. And the king goes rook a1, rook c8, king goes back to f2. He goes king g7. The waiting game. King e1. Is the king coming to the queen side? King f8. And Nodirbek brings his king to d1. Not so sure where this king is headed. Maybe, as we discussed, the king might want to go here, but Salem stops it, because the moment you go king c2, you're just simply losing a pawn with knight d4. So you have to remain on the d file. Nodirbek being very, very certain about this move king d2, because there could be some potential sacrifices on d4. Knight comes back to d6. And now he makes some progress with the move a6. b6 played. King e1. He's going back all the way with his king, yeah, to the other side. King g7. Tough game, tough game. 40 moves, 45 moves have been completed. King f2. King g8. And he plays his king to g2. Salem has been playing this waiting game, but we all know that the move that everyone's waiting for is f4. It's like the climax of the game, and both players have to be ready for it, and that's why he goes rook g8. Nodirbek goes king h3, defending the g4 pawn, preparing f4. He goes king h8. And now, after a good think here of 4 minutes, he does play f4. Important moment in the game now. f4, and this is where Salem has to now be very careful. And so as Nodirbek, because takes, he has given up the e4 square here. Rook takes, putting pressure on f7. So if you go knight e4, I could very well take. Oh no, you cannot actually. If you take, this knight g5 check and you lose the rook. Aha, so that's a cool move here. He goes king h4. Now attacking the f7 pawn. And f5 played. Wow, what a move. And actually, the dangers here is that after gf5, knight df6, this king could come under some serious pressure with rook g7. So that's the reason why Nodirbek goes knight to f2. And a mistake here, knight takes f2. Actually, knight df6 and black is doing excellently. But the thing is, he was expecting white to take on f2, but Nodirbek takes on e6, and look at Salem. Sure, he's shocked here. He's shocked beyond measure. This is actually an unbelievable piece sacrificed by Nodirbek. Because if you count the number of pawns on the board, white has 5, black has 5. It's equal pawns, and he's given up a full piece. Now he gets one pawn. Knight takes d5. Okay, but what the hell? I'm just going to go rook c8 back. And even if you go and fork here, I'm going to pin you down. So there's no way you can win material here. But rook takes f5. And what Nodirbek has basically understood is that his pieces and pawns are just so much better than his opponents. Rook f8 played. And now rook takes f8. Knight takes f8. This pawn on a6 is going to come in super handy, because after rook e7, I'm attacking your... he goes rook d6. Well, rook e7, there was perhaps knight f2 business, but rook d6 played. He goes rook g7, trying to defend here. Trying to defend the 7th rank. But now rook d8, pinning the knight. The king comes to g8. Salem down to 3 minutes. Nodirbek 9 minutes 30 seconds. Goes knight to f4, threatening knight g6, also threatening knight e6. And the knight comes back to f6 here. He plays his knight to g6. It's almost game over here. It feels rook f7 played. And now rook to a8. The threat being maybe knight takes knight and rook takes pawn. This is a super key pawn. So he plays his knight back to h7 here. And now you can already start pushing your central pawns. d5, c4, b4, c5, d6. The white central pawns are rolling down the board. King g7. and knight comes to e5. The rook is hanging here. He goes rook e7. And the knight jumps to c6, attacking the rook and also the pawn. The only way for Salem now is to create some kind of mating net. He cuts the king off. He wants to bring his knight in here. Rook takes a7 check. King goes up. Ooh. Very risky position here. And a beautiful move by Nodirbek. If you take here, I'm just taking, king takes and pawn queens. So you can't take. He has to move the rook here. Maybe rook f3. Yeah, rook f3 played. And now this beautiful move, rook f7, would finish the game, because take, knight e5 check, I take here and then a7 wins. But instead he goes a7. This could give some small chances for black. Oh, he resigns. You can see there Nodirbek is actually surprised. He says, why don't you go knight g6? And there's a mate with rook h3 and h5. Like for example, queen, check, king here, check, king here, check. And now, there's just king g2. You can go back. You can see them analyzing king g2. And yeah, it was winning. It was winning there.
Nodirbek, a crazy tough fight against Salem today. Yeah, what happened towards the end?
Yeah, I think he missed, either he missed or he underestimated the piece sacrifice. After rook takes e6, I think I'm objectively winning. Yeah, but this game was extremely complicated, and I'm happy that I managed to trick him at the end. But yeah, it was not easy.
Like once he played this move, you were pretty sure about this piece sacrifice?
Yes.
Immediately?
Yes, I was pretty sure that after rook takes e6, white has more than enough compensation. I have also initiative. He has all kind of tactical ideas. Also, I have long-term. He has long-term weakness on a7, which was the case at the end. And yeah, I was pretty sure after rook takes e6, the game would go my way.
Yeah. And what was kind of your opening preparation for Salem today, and did it actually work out over the board?
No, I think the opening was, I would not call it a success, because I didn't get anything special. He was also well prepared, and I think he managed to quite easily equalize after the opening. But yeah, then I managed to create some little bit problems, and shuffle around a little bit, and at the end I tried for more, and I played f4, after which complications start, and
like maybe he could even be a little bit better, yes? After
f5 for sure. I missed f5, and after f5 it's already dangerous for white, and white has to be very careful, I think. I mean, instead of knight xf2, he could play knight df6, and I think, yeah, white's position is very dangerous.
And this thing, of course, you do every time, that even if you get sort of an equal position, you always push it to the maximum. And the same here, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I generally do push for more when I play with white pieces. When I play with black pieces.
Also, yeah?
No, it's a little bit another story, but with white, I feel like I have to, sort of
like use the white pieces.
Maximize my chances, and try to get some play. And yeah, with black I would have never risked and just take a draw. But yeah.
And of course, time management has been exceptional for you in this tournament, partly because of Champions Chess Tour, and you have to rush every round. Yes.
Yeah, for 3 rounds I had to catch my match in Champions Chess Tour, so I had to finish in a 4 hour gap. So I at the end I managed, but it was far from easy. And
Yeah, I mean,
my
any
game
game
against-
could go long, sort of.
yeah,
Right?
especially my game against Inyan was also long and very complicated,
Yes.
very hard. And at the end I managed to win the game, but I was a little bit lucky there.
Yeah. And congratulations on becoming joint leader now. Of course, going to final round, you and Anish are leading with, I believe, 6 points each.
Yes.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much, Nodirbek, for your valuable time after such a tough game. I wish you all the best for the final round tomorrow.
Thank you.